I turned this old desktop into a gaming PC for just under $110, and the results may surprise you. For the base of the build, I picked up this HP Envy desktop from Nextdoor for $35. For those of you that don't know what Nextdoor is, it is just like Facebook Marketplace but is more local. This was a listing that I purchased it from, and basically someone was selling all their old business equipment as they upgraded to newer systems. I was surprised to see that he was selling the HP Envy for the same price as the desktop seen in the listing, because this one was a lot newer. For the graphics card, I am using the Soyo RX 580 8GB that I picked up from AliExpress a few years ago. Unfortunately, the listing is no longer available, however you can still pick up a used RX 580 on eBay for around $60 to $80. As for the drivers, I surprisingly didn't have any issues downloading them, which is a common issue that's found with AliExpress cards. I swapped out the original hard drive in the system with this cheap 480GB SSD, and really the speeds still aren't that great on this SSD, but it's still way better than the hard drive. This is another thing I got a couple of years ago as well, and I'm still surprised how cheap it was. And for the more recent pricing, you can get something similar to this for around $25. I kept the RAM the same as I didn't see an issue with it for the other specs. It came with 16GB of DDR4 with speeds of 2133 MHz. For a future video, I want to case swap this to a better looking case with better airflow, and install faster RAM, with possibly even a better graphics card. I'm interested to see what parts you guys want to see in this build, so if you have any ideas, leave them in the comments below. Putting all these parts in was a very straightforward process, and even if you are unexperienced building PCs, you can easily do this. This type of build is great for if you're running on a budget, trying to build your first gaming PC, and even though I did get really lucky finding this HP Envy at that price, you could still find similar listings to this one for around $100. One of the downsides in builds like this is a lack of upgradability in the future, as the CPU is a bit older, but you will soon see in the benchmarks that the PC works great for esports titles at 1080p. Don't mind the cable management and loose SSD in this clip, as I am mostly interested in seeing the performance of this build. And I also can't be bothered trying to cable manage in this case, especially since the power supply is not modular. As you are about to hear, the graphics card is really loud when booting up, and I made sure there were no cords blocking the fans, so I'm not exactly sure why it sounds so rattly. Thankfully it does only last a few seconds. As you can see, this system has an i7 6700 with 16GB of RAM. And the RX 580 does show up in the device manager, so that's a good sign. The first test I'm going to run on this PC is Fortnite on the performance preset. It's important to note that the coil whine in this graphics card is really bad in game, but that is what I get for buying an RX 580 from AliExpress. Also, sorry for the bad screen recording attempt. I could have done a real screen recording, but I was afraid that it would hurt the performance, especially on this older system. And unfortunately, I do not have an external capture card. But you can still see in this recording that it did run pretty smoothly, and surprisingly, there wasn't really that bad of latency. I really wanted to push this graphics card to the limits, so the next test I ran is 3D Mark. I'm aware that this does look pretty bad and is running very low FPS, but with older cards like this, it is performing how it should, as you'll see by the score. It's also nice to see that the GPU is operating at safe temperatures, even under a heavy load. In the end, even though this PC isn't the best, the price to performance on this is amazing. If you'd like to see me further upgrade this in the future and see its full potential, make sure to like this video. Also leave any part recommendations you'd like to see in the comments.